Hey gang, how you doing? We're back in the Nook. We've got a brand new book, and I want you to take a look at what's in store for you after this book review. Okay? Today we are talking Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. I believe that's his name. Laura Croft wrote this book. And as you can see behind me, there's much J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is in no way, shape, or form related, other than the fact that this man once wrote a book called The Two Towers, and this is about a fictional tower of Babel. You know that thing where you get breath stuck in your throat and it just decides to cut your word in half? I hate it, and I wish it would die. Just like everybody in this tower wishes that poor Senlin would die. For whatever reason, it's a tower full of bad people. Who would have thought that the Tower of Babel would be a bad place to be? This one is an interesting tale. I had looked up books similar to Mr. Cabal when I was finishing that particular book and the whole series, honestly. And this was one of the ones that kind of jumped out at me as being in a similar vein. I have to very much disagree outside of the fact that this person is a headmaster and an educator and well educated himself. That's about to the degree of outside of being an extreme prude like Johannes Cabal. Those are about the extremes to which they are similar. What I did like in this particular one is a little map of the Tower of Babel. So go ahead and take a look at that there. Little look see at the tower. You've got the market where the story takes place in the beginning. You got the basement. Every everybody needs to live in their mother's basement. Then you move on into the parlor, which is quite the scene. The baths, which are not as refreshing as they sound. New Babel, and so on. The Tower of Fools, which is a different book that I'll review later. And yeah, for the guy who wrote The Witcher, he certainly has an interesting writing style. Anyway, we're here to talk about Senlin Ascends, which is not Tower of Fools. They're completely different books, even though this tower is full of fools, including Senlin himself. Our criteria, if you will, as we always do for these books, is one, the difficulty of reading the book. Two, the book cover itself. I judge every book by its cover. Three, should you have it on your bookshelf? That should probably be five, but it's three. Four, the plot of the book. And five, the characters of the book. And I agree that number three should probably be number five. The difficulty of this book is not difficult at all. I would put this at a two. There are not very many concepts or things that you need to understand to get the gist of this particular book. There are no overly difficult words involved in the book. There are no strange things that you need to consider while you're reading it. There's no Latin that you need to know to read it. It is a very easy to read book, and honestly, could probably be a one in the difficulty factor. Not to say that a toddler could read this book, but as long as you read at a fifth grade reading level, you can enjoy Senlin Ascends. Pardon me while I quench my thirst and quaff some water. Quaff being a word that you would find in probably one of J.R.R. Tolkien's books. So, yeah, we'll say one. This is not a difficult read. In fact, in the first day that I started reading this, I read about 250 pages out of 392 pages of the book. And as I was saying in my review of How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying, I enjoy that this book has the dark edges that Orbit Publishing is known for when you're at the end of the book, so that you can quickly determine how long the book is and decide how long you're going to read it. Another thing that I really like about this book, but kind of don't like about this book, is that it's divided into parts. And each of the parts has its own set of chapters. That's the part that I don't like. What I do like is that they're all roughly around 8 to 10 pages long on average and not very difficult to consume. So if you were short on time during which you are able to read, this is a very good book for that because you can knock out a chapter or two in no time. Um, if you like to read at the end of the night, which I do, I don't like to really be in front of a screen in the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, or frankly in the middle of the day, unless I'm in front of my camera. So if you're like me and you don't want to be in front of a screen at the end of the night, you could pick this up, read a chapter or two, and be ready to fall asleep, without having your eyes being strained. So that's a bonus. The thing that I don't like again is that the chapters restart with every part. I really don't understand that. You get about 15 chapters in, and then you get to chapter two, and all of a sudden or part two, and it's like chapter one. You didn't write a whole new book. This is the same book. Just call it chapter 16, and let's move on. All right. That's one of my main critiques for this particular one. The cover. I thought it was very interesting that Senlin is quite literally trapped inside the tower because that is essentially the plot. And I do enjoy things that convey the plot from the cover of the book. You can get a very good determination of whether or not you're going to be able to digest this very easily from that. The title and the cover distinctly outline what the plot is if you're capable of reading between the lines. And since you are reading books, I certainly hope that you can read between the lines. Senlin ascends the Tower of Babel, which he ends up trapped in. 3.5 out of 5. It gets the point across. It is original in terms of you have the man trapped inside of his own prison of his own making. Uh, you know, it's got a little bit of the perspective shift on the text. I thought that was interesting. I remember when I first discovered that as a graphic designer. So you have the opposite perspective shift on the title, and then the perspective shift on the author. I believe this is a three-part series, possibly a four-part series. I have book number two on the way to the library so that I can pick it up. This is a library book, as you can see by the little thing that they put on the back of it. Sci-Fi by Bancroft. The more you know. Um, I wouldn't really call this science fiction. There's not much science involved outside of some hot air balloons that they call airships. I don't call that an airship. I call it a fucking hot air balloon. You know what an entomopter is? You probably do if you read Johannes Cabal. That's more science fiction than whatever this is. This is a fantasy novel. It is not science fiction. Okay. Um, so let's just get that out of the way now. Not part of the criteria, doesn't matter. It's just I like to discuss the genre of the book every now and again. Not sci-fi, fantasy. Okay. The should you own it? Um, According to Mark Lawrence, one of my favorite books of all time. He's probably got it on his bookshelf. Do you need it on your bookshelf? I'm gonna say no. Okay. I disagree with Mr. Lawrence here. It is not my favorite book of all time. That probably goes to, well, he's not up there anymore and replaced it with all of Tolkien's works. That probably right now goes to the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. It is my favorite series, and I will die on that hill. But I'm an RPG nerd, and once somebody puts leveling up into a book, I get a huge hadron collider. I like to smash protons together. That's science fiction that you can trust. So you don't have to own the book. I think that you should read the book. It's definitely worth reading as a tale of boy goes on an adventure and has to save a damsel in distress. That's essentially what this story is. A man is separated from his wife as they go to visit the Tower of Babel at his behest. It was his idea. Men are always getting women in trouble. Are they not, ladies? You know they are. Comment below if you've ever been left in a tower by a man. Quaff some more water. Um, so let's get to the plot. Man marries woman. Man takes woman on honeymoon. Honeymoon goes south extremely quickly. They get separated while she goes to buy some racy lingerie. Something scandalous, as she says, which makes him blush quite profusely and tell her that, no, 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 that's quite all right. You don't need to do that. I have never seen a lady naked in my entire life. That is Senlin. His name is Thomas Senlin, but we'll call him Thomas Senlin Mudd for short. Or Mudd. His name is Mudd. That's a joke later in the book. So, man marries woman, man takes woman on honeymoon, honeymoon goes horribly awry, and all of a sudden the man has to descend a ghastly tower in order to rescue her. The rescue does not happen in the single book. Again, it is a multi part series, so you will have to continue reading if you want to find the way that this ascension goes and how high the rabbit hole goes, perhaps to say. This is a plot that has been done before. Like I said, it's damsel in distress. So the originality of the plot is a 2.5. Solid 2.5. Biggest score we've ever had here. Just kidding. It's very below average. This is quite literally, if you used Kurt Vonnegut's formulaic way to write books, you could tell that it was used by Josiah to go ahead and craft the Senlin Ascend series. Am I going to finish them? Yes, I intend to read them all. But it's because I can get them from the library and it won't cost me anything but my own time. I do still enjoy the characters, which is what we're going to get into next, which of course is the characters. Everybody likes a good character, a good characterization of a human being. And that's what we've got here. We've got a series of human beings going on a misadventure that is not really a misadventure at all, other than the fact that their honeymoon does go horribly awry. So perhaps we can call it a misadventure. Up a tower. They're up Schitt's Creek with a paddle. And that paddle is a balloon attached to an airship. Again, we have Thomas Senlin Mudd, who is our main protagonist. He is married to Maria Mudd Senlin and Senlin Mudd, Maria, which is spelled with a Y, Marya, Maria, um, whatever. And again, she is the antithesis to Senlin. He is very prudish. He has never seen a woman naked in his life. He is the headmaster of the rural fishmonger school that he inherited from the old fuck who used to have it. Speaking of which, you won't find any vulgarity in this book, period. I think Josiah himself is also a prude, quite prudish. The most scandalous thing, to use the word, is when he finds a book that basically tells you how to pimp women. Here we go. The Confidences of a Wife Monger by Anon, brought to you by 4chan. A wife monger, simply put, is a man who identifies, isolates, primps, or pimps, and delivers women, there's the pimping, who are fit for wifedom to willing and wealthy gentlemen. A competent wife monger will have no fewer than 3 and no more than 6 women in his charge. Fewer than 3 prospects, and gentlemen will feel starved for option. And more than 6 will make the would-be husbands suspect they have blundered upon a harem. And contrary to anime, nobody really wants to be dealing with a harem, do they? So, that's about as risque as this book is going to get. So, if you saw my review for How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying, They are literally polar opposites in terms of vulgarity. How to Become a Dark Lord and Die Trying is almost equivalent to when you have to pee after you drink a lot of coffee. It smells pleasant, but it's still vulgar in the act that you're dispensing water from your body. Some people are into it. I like to just put it into the sewer system. That's probably something that Senlin would be ghastly appalled in, or find ghastly and be appalled. You make the determination on your own. How do you feel after you drink a pot of coffee? Leave a comment below. So we have Thomas and Maria. We have a boy named what was his name? Adam, if you will, in the Tower of Babel. Adam leads our hero astray and is one of his first forays into just how poorly this little climb is going to go. I mentioned the part where they get separated. That's a key version or key aspect of the story because that essentially is what drives the narrative further for the next 300 pages and is the precipice of our adventure. As he goes, he meets a dwarf who he subsequently meets again. He meets a rather large, boorish man who has never left the tower in the past 2 decades, just about. He runs through a very awkward play that he didn't want to be any part of whatsoever, and many more adventures along the way up the tower. Overall, again, there are a few cast of primary characters. I did enjoy Edith. Edith. I liked that one a lot. If it wasn't the most, you know, original of names, but hey, we're dealing with Maria with a Y here. Um, and you do feel for Thomas. You want him to succeed. There are some moments in the book that will get your temperature rising in terms of, is he going to make it through this? Obviously, plot armor, yes. But you get that little bit of suspense. Is this going to work out for him? There's a certain admiral that very much surprised me with the unsurprising way that that particular arc goes. Love Aqua du Jour. Water for short. And, that one goes very well as they quaff some brandy, some low level brandy, and share a lunch or two. And, again, this is a simple read. So you can knock this one out in a couple of days, or you can take some time and, read a couple of chapters at a time, a night, a day, however you want to do it. Character wise, we're going to go ahead and give this one, again, a 3 out of 5. So this is not the strongest of books that I've read, but I am willing to complete the series. So book 2 is going to arrive in my library in a couple of days, and I'll go through that one and, of course, do a subsequent review as a result. So let's recap. 1, extremely easy to read. 2, the cover portrays what you're getting into very nicely. It is original in its simplicity. We have what I like from the Johannes Cabal series of the black, red, and beige white type of deal. So that was attention drawing. The next one is blue, and then I believe we have green in terms of the color schema of the cover. The necessity to have this on your bookshelf is not there, so don't worry about that. Again, we gave it, what did we give it for the plot? A 2.5 out of originality because it is very formulaic, and the characters are about a 3. So again, I mean, this is about a 3 because not being hard to read is a plus side for the book, so that kind of bumps the score up a little bit. Um, but overall, you could probably skip this one. But if you wanted to give it a try, by all means, like I said, get it from the library, perhaps get the ebook, whatever means necessary. Perhaps you sail the high seas and find books on an island or two along the way, and yo ho ho and all of that. Um, but not not something you got to go through and look at. I just decided to give it a shot. I like to be open minded with books because, again, I'm just trying to consume as much that isn't on a screen, that little rectangle in front of your face as possible. And yeah, I think with this one, I'm going to say it's a solid, yeah. So sorry, Senlin. Some people aren't going to be into it. Some people are going to be really into it. But overall, you should probably try to be a lot less prudish. So, as always, leave a comment if you gave it a try, if you liked it. Subscribe and look at the little flashy subscribey thing that says subscribe when I say subscribe and lights up because, Skinner boxes and they want to trick you into doing things. And, as always, come on back, take a look at whatever book is coming up in the Nook. And if you ever get tired of that rhyme, let me know and I'll try you for criminal activity.